tell the folks a little bit about what you do here at creativeLIVE.
Sure. So I oversee, as Rick said, head of talent, which encompasses all of the internal talent, recruiters, contractors, freelancers. So we ensure that we have an organizational talent team that reflects our business model and the output that we want in that regard. I also manage the other side of that in terms of all of the people operations, so the perks that go into employing a team, the human resources. I assist the controller in accounting with a lot of the payroll in terms of the salary and that type of thing.
So you sort of design great teams, recruit great teams, and then keep those great teams happy once they're here.
That's the hope, yes.
Fantastic. Taking things in a little bit of a different direction. So this is your second company in a row where you have been a female executive at a Silicon Valley startup. Prior to this, you were at Scribd?
Yes.
Yeah. What's your personal experience being a female executive in a largely male-dominated kind of industry and local community?
So I think my position
and maybe dominated isn't the right word, but...
Well, it's heavily skewed.
Yes.
So I think I have a unique situation in that I spend my day looking at skill sets and trying to find the best talent for the position. I think that puts me into the mindset that the person that's doing the best job is the best fit. So if I apply that to myself and to those around me, the gender card kind of becomes a neutral player. I've certainly met males counterparts and female counterparts who are the best fit for the role. So that's how I approach my role. It's how I approach my interaction. In terms of executive, I do think that it's a little bit different because there is still somewhat of a perception, that there should be, not that there should be, but that there is more males in a leadership capacity. I've spent a lot of time surrounding myself with female leaders that I try to learn from and have mentors that have led me. So that's a great tip for any female, even if you don't want to pursue an executive role, is to surround yourself with others who are strong and confident and can present themselves in that capacity.
And that's kind of a trend in the Valley right now. Sheryl Sandberg famously with the recent book, Lean In, right. Helping to empower women to connect with one another, find like female mentors, help pull everyone up kind of through, not that there's a glass ceiling, but talk to us a little bit about how you found mentors, connected with them, and advice you might have for others.
So I think, I was actually very lucky. Prior to Scribd, I was actually consulting, so I interacted with even more people because I would have multiple clients at a single time. And so that was a big first step for me in that I had a huge network. And recruiting in general, you're able to, obviously talk to a lot of people.
Sure.
Again, back to the skill set thing, I spend a lot of time matching up the right skill with the right trait. So for me, I took a lot of time to think about what are the right skills for me, what's the right match for me, and where am I lacking the most in terms of, potential leadership skills.
Sure.
Back to what I was saying, I did have the opportunity to work with several really strong and confident females from the get-go, so I think I had a jump start in that capacity, which I count in my blessings every day. But and just relying on your own intuition in terms of, what is the best fit for you? What are you happy doing? Do you wake up every morning? Are you passionate doing it? Then I think you found the right fit, and you just keep going down that path.
Yeah. So building the team here at creativeLIVE, not to talk inside baseball or anything, but what are the challenges that you find, maybe generally or specifically, in building a team, in running an HR function?
So for creativeLIVE specifically, we were growing really, really quickly. So we had to
when we say really quickly, like we're talking like from 10 to 80 in less than a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
9 months. So really quickly in a lot of capacities. So my job in particular was to make sure that we weren't hiring too quick and overlooking the right talent, to take the right steps and ensure that who we were hiring fit with the people that were already in place, and then the long-term goal of the role in the team.
Right.
It's certainly still a work in progress, and I've always said that it's a science. So one hire kind of changes the scope and personality of the next as you become to create personalities amongst your team.
So a science and not an art.
Well, there's some art to it.
Some art to it.
And some luck.
Yeah.
But so yeah.
And so what do you, how, you've been incredibly successful finding amazing people to bring in here. What are some of the key things that are important to actually, how do you find the great people out there?
There's a lot of different ways to find people. So one in particular is obviously your network. As you know, in creativeLIVE, we refer everybody that's within the company to look into their own network. That first degree of separation or second degree of separation is a great referral.
And by that specifically, you mean you send out regularly an email that goes to every employee in the company saying, these are the key roles that we're hiring for. Do you know anybody?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is
and if you do,
secret from Silicon Valley. Right?
And if you do, let me know, because I'm certainly going to take a look. And it is true that most job postings get a ton of unfortunately irrelevant profiles, so you have to really scour through a lot of that and find them. The hope is that when you have your internal network, you obviously are intimately acquainted with what's going on.
Right.
Even if you're not in the team, you know the company and kind of the culture, so the hope is that someone refers them knowing those traits and that matches there.
Right.
Which actually touches on a point. You can review resumes and it's impossible to fill out the culture side until you really truly meet somebody. Sure. So there is a two-step process to sourcing out some good talent. So.
Gotcha. So internal networks, first step.
Internal networks, obviously branding of the company. From a recruiting standpoint, there's different marketing platforms in terms of obviously the job posting, getting it out there in terms of different outside. LinkedIn is a great one.
Sure.
Areas where networks tend to gravitate to for viable positions.
And so by that you mean I've seen you do this. Different job postings get placed into different websites, for example, into different community places. Exactly. It's not just all LinkedIn or Monster.com or Career Builder. Right. You're going to specific websites where that community exists. So a designer posting would be in one place, and a production person would probably be somewhere else.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And engineers are very specific in terms of even technology. There's some great open source communities that they tend to gravitate to. And then other areas are meetups. Again, back to the community, meetups in the office so that people can actually come into and see the environment that they may potentially be working in. University recruiting, where you go through the alumni networks and or new grad networks. So
yeah,
a lot of different avenues. And then again, it depends what the role is, what the team is, and what the level of experience is that you're looking for.
Sure. So. What are some of the key hires that you're looking for right now at creativeLIVE?
So we are continuing.
Yes, this is the part where we are plugging ourselves a little bit here.
We are growing very quickly. We have built out some of our teams pretty quickly in terms of where we're going to stay for 2013. The ones that are still the most needed for us are engineers, software engineers. Our technology stack is in the open source, so Node.js, MongoDB for some of the database work. We're also continuing to build our production team, primarily because we just opened 2 more studios down here. And so we've hired some core production members and continue to grow both in Seattle and San Francisco. Another area that's continuing to grow is our content team. So as we fill in 4 studios instead of 2, we're obviously going to be building a lot more content and interacting with a lot more instructors. So content producers, content specialists, content coordinators is what we call them, we're looking for. And then the jobs page always tends to have a few positions throughout the team. So right now we're looking for a designer, a user experience designer for our product team.
And where is the jobs page? I forget.
creativelive.com/jobs.
Okay, that seems like a logical location for jobs.
So, and there's also a link at the bottom of the page called Jobs.
Terrific. So it's pretty discoverable. You mentioned earlier about a company brand and building like the right culture. How do you think about and how do you enforce the local culture that we have here, and how are the executives doing that as well?
So for so brand can be used in different capacities. So in where I work with it, the brand is the people. So I think the brand becomes some of the culture, how people interact, how they exude, what creativeLIVE is to others that they interact with. So when we started, the team was very small, so there was a very core group of people producing a product, and that was the brand.
Yeah.
As we've grown, our culture has become much more dynamic with some incredibly great people added to the great people that existed from the beginning. And so the brand from a people standpoint has continued to evolve.
And it's different than the online, the product brand.
Correct.
The product brand is like what you create and put out into the world. The people brand is how they work together on a day-to-day basis. How do they treat one another around the office?
Like my goal is that our team, anytime someone interacts with us, they walk away and they're like, that's a great place to work. That's a great place to be. That's a great place to interact. And our people do that. Like we repeatedly get that. The interview process is another great opportunity to have the brand of a company. Whether you hire the candidate or not, you always want to make sure that they have a great experience with your people. That they walk away knowing that that's a good company and they felt good about the process.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we don't hire someone or we don't identify them as a fit and we continue to get referrals, which goes to show
from that person.
From that person or from their network. You know, I talked to so-and-so or I interacted with so-and-so.
Yeah.
So that's another great way to recruit, actually.
Yeah, and there's some famous companies in the Valley who have terrible reputations for their recruiting process. It's incredibly painful. And I think we've been able to avoid that pretty quickly.
Right.
You know, being small helps. You can put people, through the process faster with greater focus.
Right. I'm actually very mindful of that because I've actually interacted with some of those companies, and as a recruiter myself, that's certainly an experience I don't want to have. So it's not one that I want someone interacting with me to have. So I try to stay mindful that there's the human capacity to what we do from an interview. I think sometimes that gets lost in the word process.
Sure.
It becomes process.
So it feels like we've sort of finished kind of, I would say, like phase 2 of our team growth. Phase 1 was that initial core folks. Well, I guess phase 2 was the initial core folks after the round of funding from Greylock, Mika, his one downs, the support team after that. Then, stage 3 is really building to about 75, 80 people where we're at now. What do you see as the challenges for us over the next, let's say 6 months to a year from a team perspective? So
we are in a really unique situation in that we had a very small team and an operating product, so we had to hire a team to keep up with our product. That's unusual in the Valley in particular. A lot of times people hire because they have an idea and they need the people to build the idea. So that in itself put us in a unique situation. Fast forward to where we are now, we spent a lot of time hiring people in to create process and procedure around our product. Now I think that we've got a core team in place and we have a pretty well-oiled machine going forward. How do you make it specialized in the areas that need to be specialized? How do you scale in the areas that need scaling?
Because we went from a company where everyone kind of did everything with a really, really small team to now we have individual with specialization where people do just one job and they need to move projects across teams.
Right. So it's a lot of focus on interface, like which roles have the dotted line to each other and which roles report up or down, and how do the different parts work together so that it is a seamless process that puts forth the most output.
And it's always a challenge when you go from a generalist where everyone kind of does everything and one person owns all of it to they don't have the same responsibilities that they had before. They have a narrower set of responsibilities that are just as important, but we have a broader set of people around them who can take parts of what they used to do separately. And it's hard to make that transition for any organization. Like I saw that at YouTube. Seems like we're going through something like that here, but the ability to make that transition seems largely to go to the culture, the people culture. Like, do we enjoy working to one another? Can we resolve differences of opinion in a professional and amicable way without getting territorial or political?
Right.
And to that end, I think you've done an amazing job.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are going to send it back to the main stage. Big round of applause for Megan.
Thank you.